Hi and welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be talking about ISK and what that ISK means to you. So generally this channel is dedicated to making ISK as passively or as easily as possible. And so the question you have to ask yourself is, why are you pursuing ISK? What is it that you want it for? What are you hoping it's going to give you? Just trying to accumulate ISK shouldn't really be your goal. And generally having huge stockpiles of ISK won't enhance the game. And in some respects it will possibly detract from the game. Now I know that all kind of sounds counterproductive considering what I'm trying to achieve with this channel. So like most people when they start EVE, I jumped into a mining ship and went off mining. And over the course of a few weeks I'd managed to mine enough minerals that I could buy a badger, and that allowed me to move more ore, and from there I used that to purchase an offspree where I could mine even more. However, this got boring pretty quickly, and within 3 months I joined a PvP corp. And we've been with this corp for a few weeks. I was flying around in frigates, small fast ships, and really envious of the people that were flying around in battleships. I really wanted one, but I couldn't afford it. And that's pretty much where I discovered market trading. I created an alt account, and from there, in Jitter, I would put regional wide buy orders in for low end minerals, titanium, pyrite, etc. And these would come in at about 20% under market value, and I would just relist them in the station at the general market value. And generally it was relatively slow going, but the ISK started to slowly come in, which allowed me to upgrade my frigate to a Harpy. And pretty much that was all I was seen in for the next 9 months or so, was a Harpy. And over that 9 months I lost quite a few Harpies, but since the station trading was slowly paying for it, and I was gaining more and more ISK. So I used the profits eventually to buy an APOC, which I would take into 0-0, which is where we were fighting, doing the PvP stuff. When we weren't fighting, I would go ratting in the belts. The ISK that I made here would be funneled into my trading character, which allowed me to buy more ore, more expensive ores, so the Mexilon, etc. And again, I would just rinse and repeat day after day, going in, updating my orders, putting up the new sell orders, etc. and rinsing, repeating again and again and again. Now this didn't give me huge amounts of ISK very quickly at all. In fact, pretty much the opposite. It was incredibly slow going, but it was easy and I didn't have to be looking at it or online in order to do it. So the ISK would just slowly roll in. So over the course of several months, etc., I slowly saved up and I bought a Raven BPO, which I started making copies from and selling. Now even at the time this didn't net a huge amount of ISK, it was only 2.5 million ISK or so per copy. But again, it was another stream of income that I didn't really have to do much for. So anyway, things were going generally okay, and then I accidentally sold the BPO as a BPC. So I sold a BPO Raven for 2.5 million ISK. Now at the time, BPCs were the same colour as the BPOs, and obviously quite hard to differentiate between the two. I raged over this for quite a long time. I wasn't particularly happy, I was kicking myself, and I just lost half my net worth, which I'd been working on for 3 to 9 months. Now generally the point of this, I'm not going to go through my entire history because that would be boring as hell, but it hurt. It really hurt, and I give serious considerations to quitting the game at the time. However, I didn't quit the game. I learnt from the mistake and I was a lot more careful going forward. Thankfully, CCP eventually changed it to make the BPCs a different colour to the BPOs, so long term that problem went away. But the point still stood that I am a lot more careful from that point with what I was doing with my BPOs due to the pain that I'd inflicted upon myself. So, basically rewinding somewhat back to me in the corp, the PvP corp, the market trading was basically to feed my main character the ISK that I needed in order to fly my Harpy, etc. in PvP. The ISK that I was making from market trading was covering the losses of the harpies with extra, and again, slowly but surely, I started to save it and reinvest it. And the general point is, people would come, they would groan that they had to go a mission run, they had to mine, they had to rat, and I would jump on and be able to PvP anytime I wanted without the hassle of doing that. Other than 20 minutes here, 20 minutes there, updating a few market orders, I was free to PvP, and again, the money that I was reinvesting was just increasing slowly but surely. Now, EVE is a grindy game. It's incredibly grindy, and the reason that I'm telling you all this is I had an interesting question the other day that came up as, what do you need ISK for? And I couldn't answer it. It wasn't as straightforward as I initially expected. Yes, you need it in order to buy ships, to buy skills, bigger ships, better weapons. However, some of the best fun I've ever had in the game is in some of the smallest ships. I don't actually know my net worth, but it's in the hundreds of billions, and I don't own a carrier, I don't own a super, and I don't own a titan. I don't fly expensively blinged out ships, I don't fly anything particularly fancy. The ships that have been PvP'd in over the last couple of months are jackdaws, and I've had an incredible amount of fun in a jackdaw that is worth 120 to 150 million ISK. Now, I've seen a lot of people come and go over the years that have had to grind. They couldn't figure out ways. I couldn't teach them. I didn't have a channel, and I couldn't show them the ways of making money, and trying to explain it over comms just wasn't cutting it most of the time. People didn't really understand what I was trying to get across. And the point that I've generally gone a long way around trying to make here is that you need to be investing, you need to be thinking about the future. EVE is a long-term game that will reward you for thinking about the future. So while you're relatively fresh to the game, get grinding away, do all the mundane things, try and acquire as much ISK as quickly as you can. And that way, once the shine of these new activities has worn off, you won't need to have to return to them in the future. And that putting money away now to make a little bit more money will return its dividends to you on the fact that you won't have to do the parts of the game that you don't want to. Vast majority of people don't enjoy mining, ratting, anomaly running, etc., but they need it in order to make the ISK that they want to buy the ships that they want to fly. Now, as I said, I've had most of my fun in smaller ships, but at least I do have the option of running around in bigger ships if I so choose. And it also makes the game a lot more enjoyable. You don't feel like you're being forced to do something, you're not feeling like you're missing out. And I have covered this point in previous videos, but I thought I would do a video specifically for this. And when all your mates are out in a gang doing the things, they're out having fun and you're having to grind in a mission, it's just not much fun. You don't want to be that person. You want to be out there having fun. You don't want to be turning around and saying, "Oh, I can't afford it at the moment. I've got to grind some more." And although the market stuff I do can be grindy, a lot of it is semi-passive, but there is a lot of work that goes into it behind the passive part. I have to research, I have to look into the stuff I'm doing. So, there is work that goes into it. It's not just an easy route. It's something that you will have to think about, but that will pay off long term if you do it right. And if the thought of using spreadsheets, etc., and having to do research into manufacturing terrifies you or just really isn't your thing, then grind as much as you can, as fast as you can, and then fly smaller ships so you never have to return to it. And again, 5 billion ISK will last you for years if you are careful with it. Not everybody enjoys the mathematical side and the crunching numbers, etc. There's nothing wrong with that. If that's not your thing, then it's just not your thing. Now, the accumulation of this can start really quite slowly. Obviously, when you're starting out, you want implants, you want other things, you want new ships, you want bigger ships, you need more skills. Don't be in a huge rush to get into the biggest ship that you can. And again, think about the future. I remember thinking about buying a Tech 2 BPO back in 2005, 2006. I really almost used real life money in order to buy it, because I was looking at the long term and knew that if I had the cash at the time and I would have bought it, I would have been able to pay for my account with extra, and that would have saved me money over the long term. So we'll say the £200 that it would have cost me to buy it would have returned obviously back to me over the course of 20 months. Fortunately or unfortunately, I didn't have the cash at the time and couldn't afford it, so that wasn't a method that I was able to pursue. But again, the idea was still there, that I was looking at ways of funding my account and being able to play and do the stuff in EVE that I wanted to do. At the end of the day, this is a game, but you're here to have fun, and you want to be doing the stuff that you want to do. However, on the flip side of that, and again this is going to sound pretty contradictory to what I've just said entirely, and again it's what ISK means to you. I have obviously accumulated quite a lot of ISK, and it does make parts of the game considerably dull. Now, as I said, I don't own any of the super capital ships, which could spice things up, but ship losses don't really have much of an impact. And without having much of an impact, you don't get the adrenaline rush of a fun that comes from a PvP fight. Losing a ship for me isn't a loss, it's an inconvenience. The fact that I have to go and get a new one. It's not the fact that it's going to cost me ISK, it's the fact that it's going to take me time to literally fit one up. If there was one on the market, I would literally buy it straight out so I could fly it, because I can't be bothered to fit it. And that for the game makes it lose some of its shine, some of the fun that you can have in the game. And that's because, again, now loss has become meaningless. I've got enough wealth in order to be able to replace anything that I lose, and that taints the game somewhat and loses some of the fun that you can be had from the game. And so that brings me back to my original point of what does ISK mean to you? Why is it that you're trying to accumulate it? What is it that you're going to do with it? And is it really worth it? If you can answer that question with the fact that you are doing it in order to be able to do the things that you want to do, and you're not just trying to acquire it so you have digital figures on a computer game, then that's probably a worthwhile cause. Having lots of ISK will open up a lot of options for you and give you areas of the game to explore and have fun with that you can't obviously do if you are internet poor. And I think with this video we'll leave it there. I think I've gone on long enough, but again, give it some real thought about why it is that you're accumulating ISK and what you intend to use it for, and don't just do it for the sake of doing it, because you'll grind yourself into oblivion, and you're here to have fun. And don't confuse having lots of ISK with having lots of fun. And so thank you for your time, and fly safe. Thank you.